think a good place to start is mentioning fear. Yeah? The fear that many of us will actually be facing when you're looking at the future and the future that is awaiting us. Because fear is something that is totally normal, it's totally natural in everything that we do. But what's important is to see how are people reacting to this. So fearless is a conversation that I had with Carrie Freeman. If there's a company that's really future ready, that is Second Muse, an amazing B Corp, and I'll talk a bit more about them. But the conversation I had during a panel was saying, what are you observing in terms of the future? And she said, actually, it's not fear, it's fearlessness. She mentioned all these young people who have a huge university debt, I'm sorry about that, and then despite that debt, decide to leave their jobs. So it doesn't matter how great their job is and what they're doing. It's just amazing how fearless they are, how they have different priorities from the past people at work. So this is what is happening at the moment. There's a huge crisis. Everybody's saying, oh, it's a panic. What's going to be to the economy? And there's a huge wave of resignations. The time has come to really say, what is an important job for me? What is the job that really fulfills me? And this is a global event. Here in Spain, just a few days ago, in Expansión, they mentioned this article. So it's not just young people. It's senior executives that are leaving their jobs. They're leaving their work. They're leaving what they're doing because it does not make sense to them, because the structures are not fit for them, because there's a lack of value. They're not aligned with the work that's there. So this is the kind of future work that's expecting us. And this was the past, yeah? And your career started, so you were preparing students for a set career. That's a direction of travel, that's what you're going to do. Great, steady, I think a little bit boring, but guess what? Tom Malone was mentioning from MIT, this huge shift. His father had one job. Then he came along, he had a few jobs, and now his son, his children, will probably have a number of jobs at the same time. So we need to prepare for students, for long-term students that really can adapt to this multi-job situation. One career, one job is no longer the case, is no longer the future. It's time for a reset, we've been told. So when you're teaching your courses, when you're giving classes, when the students are looking for, they're not looking for repeating the past. They're looking for new patterns that really give meaning and give sense to what they should be doing. I love that question on The Economist. What are companies for? I think that's a great question to be asking. And is my company worthwhile? Is my job worthwhile? That's a question that's more and more is being asked. And if the answer is not good enough, people just leave. By the way, the best talent leaves, not the worst ones. The worst ones always stay. So that's what is happening. So what is then important in the future of work? What is the determining factor? The easy answer, purpose. Everybody says, oh, purpose-driven, and now you're getting this purpose washing, and you get all these kind of companies that I know we were having a conversation earlier, we're saying, for the last 2 decades, we were saying that purpose is important, and people said, yeah, very nice. But actually, let's talk about business now, let's talk about serious stuff. But now there's a huge shift, and they understand that purpose is central to the success of companies. But it's not purpose. I don't think that purpose is the answer. It's not my purpose, it's not your purpose, it's purposes. It's the ability to understand deeply what are our purposes. It's not the CEO, this amazing woman leader saying the purpose of this company is. It's not the young entrepreneur that comes in, this purpose is. It is understanding our common purposes. That's very difficult. It's very difficult to understand what is my purpose, what is my role in life. Imagining understanding our purposes. What is important to us as a team. And when I talk about team, the past work was my team in my office, the 5, 10, 10,000 of us. Team now is a global, diffused team that's all over the world. This is so important to us, but it's also creating the motivation. I was mentioning Carrie Freeman earlier, and Carrie was mentioning just how strong the motivation at Second Muse is. They're telling people, please switch off your computer. Please do not work at nights. Do not work on the weekends. Same thing I have at the BBF or in the B Corp movement. People are working feverishly because of this common purpose that gives meaning to what they're doing. They're not giving 100%, they're giving 300% of what they have. That's a dream for any company. So this shared purpose is what really makes a difference. I did mention that Carrie Freeman is co-CEO, didn't I? She's co-CEO because there's two CEOs in Second Muse, Todd Cozain and Carrie Freeman. That's a bit unusual, right? How many companies do you know have two CEOs? By the way, a man and a woman, gender equality, always a very important thing to have, especially now. And it's incredible how these people work together. So it's not her purpose, it's their purpose. And this is the kind of things that they're doing. This is their mission. They're bringing communities together to build economies that really are good for people and for planet, which sounds very romantic and very nice. But then you check, what are they doing? Where are they making this future-like work that is happening now happen? NASA. So for example, they're organizing the world's largest hackathon with thousands of people from around the world, working with NASA to create the best apps for climate and problems here on Earth and for the future in the space. So that's a kind of level of collaborative purpose that is making the difference. They're working with the Rockefeller Foundation. And with them, fascinating, they're not creating solutions, they're creating visions of what the food system should look like in the future. And again, crowdsourcing the ideas, bringing the purposes, the initiatives of thousands of people from around the world to create the best possible food systems. This is the future of work, which is happening right now. And this fearlessness, I would like to extend, and it's very interesting, that's a good thing about English, it's not fearless altogether. It's not that I have zero fear, I'm less fearful. I'm more looking for the opportunities. And the opportunities can really happen in the most amazing of spaces. So if you're looking around, where is the opportunity for shared purpose to make a difference? Where can I find this? Where can I teach my students? Try competitors. This is what Nike did. Beautiful campaign for Black Lives Matters. You know, the logo of Nike is just do it. And instead they were saying, for once, do not do it. Do not be racist. Do not look at things. Do not see anything happen. Beautiful campaign, millions, 7.9 million, I think it's gone up since then, of views. It was timely, it was right, it was participating in an issue. What I found interesting is their key competitor, Adidas, posted on their blog their key competitor's post. And they said, together is how we move forward. So this is interesting, yeah? You're just highlighting the competition and showing how amazing they are because there's a common message there. There's a commonality that we need to find at school, in the classes, and implement it at work that will create these disruptive, great, useful workplaces. It doesn't stop there. So order from McDonald's, and I would definitely not encourage you to eat that stuff, but still, who makes this ad? Burger King. Burger King buys big ad space saying, please buy from my biggest competitor. Why? It was COVID times, people didn't go to eat out, they had to lay off people, it was a disaster economically, so they said, whatever you do, please go and consume, please go and eat things. Again, it's not my call for action. What I find fascinating is that an arch enemy and competitor says, don't do that. Interesting, in the note it says, we never thought we ask you to do this, but do support people and buy from McDonald's, even though they say, getting a Whopper is always the best. So they have a little bit of a subliminal message there. So this is the kind of extreme that are happening at the moment, and it does not stop there, because if you think of the key competitor or one of the key competitors of Apple, what comes to mind? It's probably Samsung, amongst the many others. Interesting enough, if you look at your iPads, your iPhones, the screens are actually made by Apple's biggest competitor. So Samsung is producing the screens and the panels for all these devices. Again, even the competition finding a common purpose to work together to create better things. In this case, it's pure profit. In our beautiful cases, it's a higher, loftier kind of idea that moves forward. So this is the way forward, to be fearless, to help the students to really embrace what they want to do, because they already are. The younger generations are fearless. They have less fear. They want to live their life to the full. And I would push that fearlessness beyond our business model. I think you have I heard some great stories of different entrepreneurs with amazing business models that are doing really great things. But then the ideal thing is that you activate your purpose and you become activist in society. What's an activist? An activist is somebody that awakens well beyond their business model. They don't need to do that, but they believe that's important. That's also their role of a company. The role of a company of selling stuff, gone. The role of the company now is to give hope, to give activism, to give love, to create love. Those are the companies that will shine, where people will want to go, that will create the best companies, the best workplaces for the future. And this activism is beyond purpose. And let me give you a couple of examples of how this activism is operating right now. This is what you expect from Ben & Jerry's: love, peace, and ice cream. So this is what you would expect on the homepage. So from a company that's selling ice creams, you would not expect this on their homepage. So basically, Ben & Jerry's, amongst the many things, they run a huge campaign. Here in Spain, there's this interesting law where if you're an immigrant, you cannot work here for 3 years. You will not have a work permit until then. You can imagine how much trouble that can create. So an ice cream company says, I want to do something about it. It's not about my products, it's about my values, what I care for, what I long for. And they made this big campaign. And through this campaign, they won it, and they shouted to the world, we made it, we did it. This going well beyond the purpose of the company. So can we teach our students to look beyond their company? Does it make sense to do that? Well, here's the new breed of activist companies, these B Corps. They don't have to be B Corps. There's great companies which are not B Corps. Secomuse, Ben & Jerry's, and the following one happen to be B Corps, but it doesn't have to be that way. And what's interesting is how small a little startup can disrupt the market with their activism. So basically, Eura Foods, what they do beautifully is this create products which taste like meat, but actually are not meat at all. So there's different processes. I'm not sure what they do, what proteins they put into that, what soy they put into that, and that's the product. They have about 6 products. They have a huge amount of products. But boy, are they activists. For example, these are the 2 guys, 2 young guys, the startup company from zero. I've got an idea, let's create some stuff that could be sold here and there. And these are the kind of campaigns that they do. Now, I do not encourage, again, these campaigns, but I think it's really cool how much they punch in the face and go well beyond selling stuff to really drive forward their values, what they stand for. The campaign here was that one meat hamburger, not their non-animal hamburger, actually contaminates more than a car. This was a huge thing, and obviously all the animal cultivating companies right away sued them because, it's kind of, but not really. Of course, animals create methane, there's lots of water that they use, so they're not exactly the best way forward, but that statement was going beyond what they want, what was really the truth. So again, they were sued, top news on all the newspapers, and again, they got a lot of visibility by living their values. This is the extreme of activism. So I would not say that everybody should do that, but let's show you that. And they said, that's not enough. Let's create a bit more of a issue. And here they are in Plaza de Toros. So in the center of the meat lovers' place, they go, I'm not sure how they managed to hire it, and they did a big shot about this non-meat food and against animal cruelty and everything else. So these guys are really pushing activism forward to that. So these are the 2 young guys, 2 guys from Barcelona, fooling around or not. They just got 16 million in 1 week. This passion that they created, this activism that they created is 16 million, of which 5 million they got in 16 hours through a crowd investing platform. Again, the new ways of getting money is very interesting. So this starts to tell me that maybe it's not just about crazy guys being activists, but there's a connection maybe between really living your values, going beyond who you are, and really creating a great business proposal. So it works. More activists. I'm not sure how many of you CEOs are using their social media to go beyond what you're selling. Here's a great activist, he's a CEO of Capsa Food, yet another B Corp, and they're basically a milk-producing company, so it's not exactly the most activist and so forth. But this guy, the CEO, is very clear about his values. He's very aligned with his company's values, who live the same values. And when you look at what he posts on social media, he doesn't talk about his milk, he doesn't talk about his company, he talks about the values that are important. In this case, as a post, let's save Spain, let's unite, let's not fight against each other, really create a unite that really makes us stronger. So these are the kind of activism that you can do as a CEO that I hope you're teaching to your students about how can you be yourself? How can you really live your values in your business to create better business? And I underline better business because these are some of the similar things that they do. They're a B Corp. They have this wonderful circular system, sustainable, it's a cooperative. It's really an interesting business model, by the way. But look at the numbers. Again, the numbers saying this way of doing business is a good way of doing business. It awakens, it creates a new sense of why this company works. People feel proud about the values that this company lives, and guess what? Profits go up. So again, the connection to me is really clear, very motivated, very driven, very passionate people that really go forward. And the ideal is when these tribes unite. These are the B Corps. We were there at COP25 in Madrid, and it was a moment of not exact celebration, because COP25 was a bit of a depressing element. Great kudos for Spain for organizing a UN summit in 1 month. Unbelievable, that's motivation. But the actual content there were not exactly amazing. So what happened there, at the very end, in the big plenary, there we were. I was doing some guerrilla marketing. Not sure if you can see me there with my Doppler bottle. And what I love about this image is Paul Polman. Yeah, Paul Polman, the guru at the center, is right behind us, right at the back, supporting this crazy group of B Corps who just signed a net zero 2030 commitment. So this is when the tribe becomes powerful, when you go beyond the business model, when you go into passion, when you go into what's really important to you and to the common purposes. So to me, if you ask me, what are the entrepreneurial competencies, what kind of employment and future of jobs, to me, the answer that we as teachers or as students should be asking are these. Are you creating fearless organizations? Are you creating super collaborators who are able to identify, empathize, and really connect these purposes? Are you creating purposeful organizations that are worth existing, or are you just selling stuff? And just as important, are you igniting activism? I sincerely hope that you all can say you're one of the best companies for the world. Thank you.